This is Liz Truss, a British politician working in government, and she is following a very similar policy to that of Nazi Germany. But more on that later. We're going to listen to an interview with journalists who are going to actually hold Liz Truss to account over her policy with Rwanda. A government policy to send people who have come all the way over as refugees all the way over to the African state of Rwanda. Let's have a listen.
If you're saying Rwanda is a good place to be, it's safe, you're going to be looked after and there will be employment opportunities, in what way does that deter people who are coming over? Because surely they will still get into those boats in great numbers. Firstly, they are desperate. Now, you might have an issue with who they are.
And I would say that she does have a problem with who they are. I would say that she has an issue with them being Syrian or Iranian or generally from the Middle East. And there's a pattern here. Because if you're Ukrainian, you can stay. But if you've stood up to the Assad regime or the Iranian regime, you can still be turfed out of the country. All of this appears to be creating some sort of dividing politics again. Have you got bad refugees or good refugees? And it's the government that's deliberately creating this division because they're in deep doo-doo. Or simply, they're just a bunch of racists.
But they have to be desperate to get into those boats. They have a good chance, firstly, of staying in the UK. And secondly, if they don't stay in the UK, they get deported somewhere that...
She's just done a weird thing with her jaw. I'm not sure what it means, but I'm going to have a guess that it might be annoyance.
You're saying is a safe place with a good future. I'm not sure where the deterrent is.
How are you doing that? By selling it to the public that it's a really nice place to go and at the same time using it as a deterrent? It doesn't make sense. This is a difficult question for her and you're going to see that in her response because just watch her eyes. They blink a lot, which is an indicator of stress.
Well, what we are seeing is increasing levels of illegal migration around the world. And this is a problem that not just the United Kingdom faces, it's faced by the United States.
Faced globally, and in part because of climate change, which isn't really being discussed in the mainstream media as a reason as to why people are emigrating and moving. You can't live somewhere unless you've got the ability to cultivate and have agriculture. It's a key component, and that's what climate change destroys. But I have a solution. I don't want to always be pessimistic on here. I have a couple of great ideas, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well.
Relocate elsewhere.
That's not
now,
clearly, the question, Ms. Truss.
Clearly that isn't their
No, but the
preference.
question is, where's the deterrent? That's the question. Can you answer that question? Where is the deterrent element in this policy if Rwanda is such a great place to go?
It's a safe place to go. It's a place with a positive future, but it clearly isn't the choice of the illegal people traffickers.
As usual, government nonsense. How do you punish the traffickers if you're only punishing the refugees? Such a car crash interview.
Because they are sending people to the United Kingdom. So this is about deterring people from travelling to the United Kingdom.
It doesn't deter the people traffickers because the people traffickers get their money.
Finally, someone said it in the mainstream media. They get their money, they take them to the beach, and then they stick them on a boat, and they don't have to ever worry about them again. And on top of that, they are making so much money. LBC managed to get into one of the camps, and they found out that they were being charged $7,000 per person, 25 people a day, and that equals 100 to 200,000 a day, without any fear of recrimination. And with that type of money, you can bribe a lot of people.
So it's not a deterrent to them. You're saying that Rwanda, and, you know, we know people go on holiday in Rwanda. Rwanda is an emerging economy. It's perfectly, you know, safe, as you say, developing country. So it's not a deterrent to the people getting in the boats.
But is it safe? According to Human Rights Watch, between February and May of 2018, Rwandan authorities used excessive force and killed 12 Congolese refugees during a protest over cuts in food rations, and police arrests of over 60 others. They also confirmed that between October 2018 and September 2019, 35 refugees were sentenced to between 3 and 15 years in prison. One refugee that gave information to the Human Rights Watch had the information used against him in trial and is now currently serving a 15-year sentence. And Liz Truss's nonsense continues.
I believe it is a deterrent to people getting in the boats because ultimately they're being told by the people traffickers that they have a future in the United Kingdom.
This is such a car crash. So she's saying that the traffickers are lying to the refugees trying to get across, and that will deter them because the refugees are already in the boat, they come across, and then potentially going to be deported. But they're not going to find that out until they're across the channel. So how does that deter them? And the traffickers have still made their money, so How's that going to deter them? This is literally nonsensical on so many layers.
Of course, people can apply to come to the United Kingdom through legal routes.
Except they can't because the government haven't set them up. This is Zoe Gardner from Asylum Aid. Have a listen to what she has to say about the government and its action or inactions in this interview.
We've poured tens of millions of pounds into border security with France and further millions and billions into building up and training and equipping border control forces in Turkey and then further afield across the world. And the approach simply doesn't work. We haven't spent even a fraction of that amount of money in establishing credible, well-functioning, dignified conditions to receive and register asylum seekers across the European Union. And that is what is so desperately needed.
We know that the legal challenges mean that most of the people, I think 28,000 people arrived across the Channel last year. We understand it could be 7 people on the deportation
And another stress indicator with the trawl moving.
flight to Rwanda. It's not going to work, is it? If you put aside the fact that Prince Charles calls it appalling, if you put aside the fact that the Christian Church says it's an immoral policy that shames Britain, it sounds to many people like it's simply not going to be effective.
Burn.
The immoral people here are the people traffickers seeking
Well, I
to
think we can all agree that.
profit from people's misery. And the important point about tonight's flight, and there will be a flight tonight.
Except there wasn't because the European Court of Human Rights intervened and stopped the flight.
And those critics that you talk about don't have an alternative.
Except there are alternatives, and they are being purported by people like Zoe Gardner from Asylum Aid, who pointed out that actually, if you opened up asylum centres across Europe, you would alleviate the problem of the channel crossings. It's just that the government doesn't want to do this. But the other insulting thing is that she's just suggested that no one else can come up with a better idea. She's not only suggesting that these critics can't do it, but she's also completely lying to the public right now, because there are people saying there are alternatives out there. It's just that the government doesn't want to listen because they're probably not palatable to some members of their far right.
There are reasons why people seek to make their way to the UK. All the research tells us, including the Home Office's own research, that those are based on connections to the UK, connections to the country they're trying to reach. The ways to solve that is to enter into good faith negotiations with our partners in Europe, to arrange for a system where people with those connections can travel safely, legally, to the UK.
I said earlier in the video that there was a comparison to a Nazi policy, which is called the Madagascar Plan. A plan that was to forcibly relocate the Jewish population of Europe to the island of Madagascar. The island itself was then to be run by the SS as a police state. It's chilling that elements of this history is repeating itself. I promised I was going to do something upbeat, which I'm wanting to do with this channel for quite a while, because there's a lot of negativity out there. The Great Green Wall project is something that I'm really passionate about, and have been supporting for quite a while, and would encourage all of you to do. It's a daring vision, the idea being to put trees along the southern Sahara, and I'm going to start proposing the idea of pushing it towards the north as well, and I think this would have a multiplier effect. It would reduce heat waves coming into Europe. That would also help create agriculture in the area, reduce immigration, because it would mean that the area is starting to stabilise, and it's producing jobs, it's producing food, it's giving people a reason, an extra reason, to stay within the area. If you're interested in the project, please click the link in the description. Just want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters and YouTube supporters. You keep this channel growing. On top of that, we've also got the Sunday Roast, which is another live show coming back in September. Please click the link in the description to subscribe. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think of Liz Truss's policies. Bye for now.